Hello, everyone. Welcome to our 501c drop. Today, I am Leah Simmons. I am CEO and co-founder of BetterUnite. Welcome. I actually was pausing because I was about to immediately welcome my good friend, the powerhouse herself, Kandice Luisi. She is she's actually the founder of Knockout Fundraising. And today we are diving into supercharging your fundraising events. So how-tos. Whether you're planning a gala or a golf tournament or a fun run, anything, a community mixer, Kandice has literally years of hands-on experience helping nonprofits make their events more successful, more impactful, and frankly, raise more money. Welcome, Kandice.
Thank you so much. What an introduction.
I love it. Kandice actually was a presenter at our Better conference back in September on our Tech Masterclass Day, and it was absolutely. I said this, I think, in a social post, one of the most well attended, frankly, as well as insightful, as well as popular presentations that we got to see at the conference. And Kandice, when I first suggested this to her, was like, "No, I don't want to do that." Being the behind the scenes woman she is, but she braved it, got up there, and you really just you knocked it out. It was great. You
Oh,
knocked it out of
thank
the
you
park.
so much. I learned so much from that conference. It was great, and everyone was so engaging. So I used to do conferences. I mean, I would go to all of them, and that was probably the most just natural feeling. And I just felt like I got to really get to know people. It felt very comfortable. Didn't feel like a conference, which is why I guess you call it a better conference.
That's what we try to do. Yeah, thank you. I'm super glad that you had that experience too. All right, I'm going to stop sharing our presentation now, and let's jump into the questions that I have for you today. First of all, folks, I do want to make a note that you can put anything you'd like to ask Kandice into the chat. So we've got a live chat going, and we will get to the questions that we can. We don't typically have a ton of time for that, but we will absolutely do our best because this was actually what I noticed at the conference too, Kandice. Remember, you could barely get through one single slide without having deluge of questions that were coming at you that you were gracious enough to answer. So we're going to go through and talk about a lot of the different components of the event, but let me start with run of show. I know this is something that you feel very passionately about, that you and Knockout Fundraising, you all excel at creating and building out for the events that you're a part of. What are the key elements of a successful run of show? And part two to this question, when should the nonprofit start planning it, thinking it, working through it, start putting some, pen to paper?
Yeah, that's a good question. And of course, run of show is a major, factor in making sure the event is successful. And of course, this probably seems obvious, but just sticking to the run of show and having a plan and making sure you're on time and those things is harder than it, seems. And so just having a few tools to make sure you're doing that. I always kind of have someone that's kind of that just OCD, and they're going to be checking hey, are we on schedule? What could be, a factor that's contributing to us getting behind or ahead.
Right.
And just having someone kind of stay in that window. My sweet spot is 5 to 8 minutes. You're doing great. I mean, if you're within 5 to 8 minutes
within that 5 to 8 minutes of what you had planned
of
timing
what you
wise.
had planned,
Okay.
then it's you're doing pretty good. If you get more, 10 to 15, you're still doing okay. And if you get into the 20s or 30s, okay, we probably are going to start missing some key components if we don't catch up. But having someone kind of on it, and usually there's a sweet spot, right, that you should be planning out this run of show. You kind of have a framework when you first start planning your event, but you're really not going to know until a lot closer to the event. So truthfully, this might be, a different opinion, but I think 2 months out is when you're really starting to get a good idea of where everything's going to be. 1 month out, you should have a pretty solid structure for your run of show, and then the week of you're finalizing. You don't want to wait too long. You don't want to be the last day you're making any major changes or anything, but that week is kind of your last chance to make any major changes.
Okay. So do you have a combined I'm going off script here,
No,
Candace. Sorry.
please.
This is not a question that I
This is
sent to you,
great.
but I'm curious because it was something that I did when I did fundraising events for nonprofits. So I would usually do a combined script plus run of show and then a run of show that was separate. Do you advise that? Or I'm wondering if that's actually a bad idea.
Personally, just because of the way my brain works, you don't wanna have too much information in one place. So, you're
Mm,
gonna have your script timeline, and that should always match up with your other timeline, but our timelines specifically, we make them for our volunteers and for the
okay.
organizer. So, it has everybody's name and role, and they're all color coded. Everyone can just look for their color. I mean, we get really, really serious about it. You got your time, your what is on the agenda, and your specifics, but we make it all fit onto one page, and that's all it
Oh,
should ever fit on. It for me
okay.
anyways, just for my visual preference because
No.
I need to not flip at all. I've had where I'm like, "Oh, yeah, well, just go ahead and send me your run of show," and it's that giant, 50-page script. I can't see in just one view, just like a where should I be? You have to
Right.
flip through and, that could be a little difficult. So I would have multiple copies, right? So you might have
Yeah.
your script, which is separate, and then your one sheet timeline if you can fit it on one, maybe two sheets.
One sheet. Okay. So
Yeah.
that takes me to the next question. Clearly, I was doing something wrong when I was planning these events, but where would you say that most events go wrong when it comes to the timing and then also the transitions? Because that is always, to me, I see that be an awkward dance
Sure.
sometimes at the events that we go to. What's your advice there?
Yeah, just think about it as, any event you've been to, and you mentioned transition. So you're moving from one stage to the next, just thinking of it being natural, prepping for it. So, a lot of auctioneers use what's called the voice of God, and that kind of gears you through. And that's just an expression we use in the industry, and that's just having someone over the mic. You can't see them, you just hear them, and they're, announcing like what's next. Make your way. Always kind of don't think of 7 o'clock. Okay, that's when I still tell people to get to the ballroom. Think 6:45. I start mentioning it. People take a while, right? They're mingling. The more fun they're having, the less they're probably paying attention to your timeline, to be honest.
But the more fun they're having, the more engaged they
Oh,
probably are in your event.
absolutely.
So we need both, right?
Absolutely. I know you
Yeah.
need both. So it's taking the factors of there's a lot going on, and
Hmm.
communicating super well. I would say too is, you've got this plan, and it's on paper and everyone's following this, but making sure that you tell someone, especially a speaker, this is probably where I see timelines go astray the most, is when you have speakers and you say, okay, great, you're at 8:15. You need to say you're at 8:15 and your time is up at 8:20. You have you have 5-10 minutes, whatever it is, that if that speaker is, it's one of the bigger speakers, okay, you can give them a little more time, but making sure they know you have a 15-minute window.
Hmm.
Look at their script beforehand. If they're the kind that is gonna, just free ball it and they don't have a script, that's fine too. But have someone in the back that gives a 5-minute warning, or
I
someone,
was wondering that.
in the
Yeah.
front that's close up, because people don't if you're not a natural public speaker, you're not exactly, time is either going so slow or flying by.
Right. They're
You know
either terrified, nervous, or like having the
Yeah,
time of their life on stage, and you don't know which one it's going to
exactly.
be.
Yeah, so giving them kind of a heads up, because I can't tell you how many times, "All right, we've got 3 speakers," and I'm always like, "3, okay. 3's a lot, but okay. We got 3 speakers. They each have 10-minute window. That's 30 minutes. That's a pretty big window, but,
That's a long time.
making sure they stay on 10, and how many of them go over 15, 20 minutes each, and there goes a whole hour of your event. So you just have to really make sure you're prepping them gently. "This is your window. This is what hey, look for this sign. They're gonna let you know when you're getting close so that they can fit in those last key points and, continue on with the timeline."
So you're really speaking to already my next question, which is that balance. Like you said, it's a fine
Mhm.
dance, like balancing the structure that you have laid out and the flexibility that's just
Yep.
necessary. Do you have any advice on how to achieve that?
Um, there's so many factors that go into it, right? So you start the event with registration. So as long as you know, you're using a platform like BetterUnite that works super well to get people in really quickly, but you've got a plan to
Yeah.
keep that within its window of 30, 45 minutes, max an hour to get everyone checked in. Okay. And I know that everyone arrives at different times, but that's a pretty standard time to make sure that you have everyone checked in so they can go into that natural progression of run a show. The other big thing, that can inhibit the run of show would be like catering. So making sure you have that very clear communication with catering. Hey, this is the time that we want plates down. Those certain things. Because when food and everything, like catering wise, and things get kind of backed up, everything else naturally gets backed up. So I would just say, like, creating that balance is having those conversations, communicating, having that
Mm.
timeline sheet, everyone has a copy of it. Everyone's, copying the same, timeline. But balancing, I guess, in your sense, do you mean like how much of each thing is at the event? Because
Honestly, really, I was thinking more just, your tips, which you've already given us
sure,
around, where can you be flexible and
yeah,
I mean, just really how you accomplish it. And what I'm hearing you say is really it's communications. It's having the
yes,
conversations well
yes,
in advance so that no one's surprised day of when they're
yes.
getting the 5, 4, 3 or whatever it is.
Mhm. And having
Yeah.
those buffers, if you're gonna put them anywhere,
Build in buffers.
a buffer
Okay.
would be like, "It's okay if this went over 15 minutes because this next step is here." Having those buffers be around registration and the food coming out, right?
Oh, that's huge.
Since
Yeah.
those are the 2 kind of biggest contributors that can affect your timing,
Uh-huh.
just having those buffers exist there. So if
Interesting.
you're only giving registration, 45 minutes to the dot and then the first thing starts, anything can happen, right? You just wanna make sure okay, maybe we'll push that to 7:15, right? So, like, having a little extra time to get everyone in, feeling like you've got enough time to get to that next stage. But, I
Uh-huh.
know it's sometimes a short night and you're only allocated 5 hours or, something like that. So just, uh, making sure you don't add too many things, too many speakers. So just considering it all as a whole as a big picture, I say would be my advice. I don't
That's
know if that helps.
I think that's incredible actually, and things that I've not really thought about, that those big contributing factors. Okay, so day of, we've established we're on a show, you've shown up at the event. When the lights go up and people are coming in the door, what can the people that work for the nonprofit, so the staff members, I mean, of course we usually have some volunteers in there, but what can they do so that they stay sane and efficient? Or maybe like your top 2 to 3 must-dos to ensure smooth day of logistics. How about that?
And of course, that comes down to that same timeline. And
Yep.
I call there's like a how the event's gonna go timeline that's kind of for everybody, and then there's a every person has their job. So when we color code our timeline, we have, Sarah, she's at registration, and at this exact time, she goes to these other things, and just making sure they know what their next step is, because the worst
Yeah.
thing you can have is a volunteer that doesn't know where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
So, again, I'm gonna just, harp on communication a lot, but just having that communication between the team. And this is maybe a contradicting opinion, but the reason we sell our services so well is that we come in to do those jobs for you, and I'm going to be utilizing either our staff or your volunteers. The organization's staff should, to me personally, I don't even want them doing any designated job that takes longer than, okay, I go help with this and I go help with that. For me, if you have the staff to be able to bring on volunteers or you're able to hire a third party to come in and do these things, the main goal for the organization staff, especially the top leaders in it, is to go spread their mission. They're there to get to know their community. So if you're boxed up at registration or you're having to help with catering or having where's your time to go get to
Yeah.
know your donors? And that's they want to get to know you. They want to, you want to get to know them. And so it's, again, this might be something that not everyone can pull off. But if you're able to utilize volunteers instead, staff should just be kind of watching it flow with everyone in place doing that job instead
I
of them.
love that advice because
There's
I can't tell you, working with BetterUnite, how many times going on site to an event, the people that are checking folks in. So you didn't mention this, so I'll mention this one that I've seen, and it's a bit of a complaint. But if the development director or executive director or even key staff are in the registration kind of group,
yeah,
they create their own bottleneck because they
uh-huh,
know so many people, and of course they can't like quickly shoo a major donor
yep,
off to go get their
right,
drink, but strangers can do that, or just a
yes.
volunteer can do that. And it's always so, we're looking for that quick, get them in the door. I love the idea of our key staff being somewhere else, being able to, create the connections that the event is actually for.
Yep. And anything that's, able to a job that can help you get to know your donors, that's something staff should do, but not at registration, right? That's a great point. And anytime I'm in my consultations with my clients, I'm like, you're not going to be there. But this is how I'm going to run it because you're going to be busy with X, Y, and Z. You're going to be talking to everybody. You're going to, be having a good time. You
Yeah.
did all the work leading up to this, and I know you're going
Right.
to do all the work after. So, during the event, only come to just
Actually enjoy
get a
yourself.
thumbs up. Yeah, go have
And
fun.
let the donors and the attendees see you enjoying yourself. It
Exactly.
becomes contagious too, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you've touched on volunteers. How can they best be utilized for kind of like maximum impact and cause the least amount of chaos?
And this I have a few, notes for this, but one thing when you're communicating with your volunteers, it is okay to have volunteers that can only give a few hours, but make sure it's very clear on the front end. This is the time frame in which I'm giving. If it's the whole time and they're expected to be there the whole time, I'm personally, if I'm there, I'm going to be using them the whole time. And then I'm going to,
Sure.
because that's my first question when I ask, when I'm talking to volunteers, okay, who's here for what? Whenever I'm doing assignments, whenever I'm creating that timeline, I need to know like where everyone's going to be, because I can't tell you how many times I've had volunteers, they're there and then, oh, I go in and enjoy, or oh, I have to leave at this certain time. Well, I had you assigned to a job, right? In my
Yeah.
mind, you're here the whole time and you're working. So I would just say making sure you have that clear expectation that how long are you here? And then another thing is just knowing people's strengths and weaknesses. I'm not afraid to ask. When I got my volunteers, they always kind of bring me everybody at first. Okay, I need this many for registration. The rest, the team might need you somewhere else. But finding people's strengths and weaknesses. So if I have someone that's, where I'm prepping them and saying, okay, you're going to be on a computer, you're going to be talking to guests. Do you feel comfortable doing that? And I know I'm putting you on the spot to ask you that, but
Absolutely.
who feels the most comfortable
Yeah.
talking to a ton of people and using, a device? So if your strength is more, ushering people in and kind of being welcoming, let's put you there. So
Sure.
I think a lot of the time you have to kind of navigate that early.
I love those ushers. I
Yeah,
love when I show up at an event and somebody's like they're directing traffic.
yeah,
It's almost like comforting as a guest as well, too.
absolutely.
And they just tells you where you're
I
supposed to
never
go.
know where I'm going. I'm like, am I supposed to be here or over
Having
there? I
somebody
don't know.
walk up to me and say, "Move over this way,
Yeah.
please," by all
Someone
means.
is just doing one of these, and I'm like, "Okay, great. I'm
Exactly.
doing my
Air
job."
traffic controlling.
Yeah,
So what's a common last minute scramble that you've seen happen at events?
goodness. You know, there's always something I couldn't imagine, like, going wrong with paddles goes wrong. Like, you're thinking that you've had this conversation a million times about how anything goes, or, you know, it doesn't matter. There's always something. So just making sure, because the paddle is how we're able to identify the guest
Oh,
and put
yeah.
everything to paper, everything into a system. So that is their identifier. Putting the guest names on the paddle is really big for me. So a lot of things are around paddles for me. Making sure, I can't tell you how many times we had like little like a program and the paddle was on the program, which I'm not saying don't do it, but it's this big. And you have to think, okay, how's the auctioneer going to see that?
You cannot see it.
Um, it's always, just one of those things that, okay, let's talk out every single part. How are we distributing them? What's already on them? What's the size? What's the font size? Like having those conversations with my clients and just making sure that the paddles are what we think. I have a sample where I'm like, this is what I recommend. Here's a format. You can steal it if you want. That's one of the things. And then let's see, another mishap would probably just be like, it's not really a mishap. It's just a hurdle. A lot of the time we don't know who's coming. If you got a sponsor heavy event, um, making sure you have a plan in place if we are not able to identify somebody, or if somebody comes that we weren't anticipating or anything like that, meaning an extra table, um, being able to, sell a ticket on
Just a
site, or,
ticket,
or
sure.
or whatever the case be. If I don't know who this person is, do I have a plan for where to put them? Because I can't tell you how many times I've had to awkwardly be like, could you just give me one moment? I have nowhere to put you. I have no, or I don't know
And it
what's
invariably turns out to be like their biggest donor or the
gosh,
most
and then they
important
feel
person
so
that didn't say
awkward.
they were coming.
Yeah, so I always like to have backups. So, okay, great. I have a lot of empty seats here that the sponsors didn't give us. We don't know who all's coming. Let's make sure we have, an extra table, or we have a system. We
Mhm.
have a person I'm going to go to ask, or whatever. Like a master list. Anything to kind of alleviate that. And then of course, like, table assignments. That's a big one. Table assignments can be great when done, so helpful when done well. And my advice is to have a platform like yours that you can put them in so
Yeah.
that you can see it all. And having one list, I think that's a big one too. So many people, you'll have so many lists that live everywhere. You have to have one. So if you're putting it in the BetterUnite system, it all exists under that person's profile. So when you go to check them in, it says right there what table number they're at, and then they also get a text that says
Yeah.
what table number they are. I mean, you can't communicate it any other million ways.
More
So,
clearly, I know that, and that's honestly when they walk up to registration, that's like the only thing they really want to know is like, where am I going,
where am
right?
I
And
sitting?
so we want them to give us a credit card, and we want to give them a paddle, but like that's
Yeah,
not really their key concern. They just want to know, where am I supposed to sit so I can go get my first cocktail. And so I
exactly.
always think about that when I'm like, let's just get that to them as fast as we can, and then the other pieces kind of can take care of themselves.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I love that, the clarity, like both clarity and delegation, making that huge difference for the
Yeah.
smoothness of the
Clean
entrance
list.
into the event.
Yeah, clean lists, that's huge. I mean, back to that, just having one, um, and it being a shared document, kind of thing that's everyone can see the updates, and no one's pulling that version, and now there's a new version out. So just very clean, crisp lists, contacts, that sort of thing. Very, very important. Yeah.
So you've jumped into the realm that I was going to take us into, which is tech. And
Perfect.
you and I both know Candice has a background working with event tech, as well as can I share your, I don't
Yeah.
think it's a secret that you are a
No,
benefit
please.
auctioneer specialist. She has her designation. So take with as holy the words that Candice shares about what auctioneers need in these situations. So you and I both know that like tech can make or break an event. It really can, and a lot hinges on it. But I mean, and I see this, and our team talks about this all the time. A lot of organizations just kind of aren't using their technology to the fullest to get everything out of it that they can. How can nonprofits better leverage event software like BetterUnite is what the one that I'm familiar with, but frankly, any of them to reduce. So how can they leverage the tech to reduce stress on event day?
Yeah, and you were about to tell him too, is I came from software, so I, helped kind of build up a software and build and go out into these events and find, okay, what do we need to make these more successful? So I got to kind of help from the back end of it and really build it. And then I started my own company. Now I work with, I can't say any software anymore. I used to say any software, and now we have strict rules on certain ones. If they don't have X, Y, and Z, in their tech built in, then we won't use it. You can make a switch, or maybe we're not the right fit for you, but we make, we has to have certain tools. One key thing that makes me choose Better Unite over other ones is that
I'm happy to know we passed your test.
you did, but
I'm
you're
just
at my
kidding. I
top of
know
my
that because
list.
you
You
use
know
it every
that
night.
already. I guess I should tell everybody else. You guys are my number one for these few things, and the big one for me is every stage of me using this software. You have thought of every way. What's the best way to say this? To shave off a few seconds, to
Yeah.
shave off time. Everything with check-in, with clerking, with checkout. You've made it to where I don't have to click a boop, 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 boop. It's this is the action I need. It's done. This is what I need. It's very quick. Adding a credit card, checking someone in. I don't want all the fluff. I don't need all the different things. You have all the customizations in there, but as far as like when I need to get something done, I am able to get it done in a matter of seconds. And the thing I have to brag about the most is probably your clerking tool, because being able to be, because I am the clerk, right? So I'm the person at every event that's putting it in the system, because the moment that auctioneer is off that stage, checkout begins. Okay, I
Yeah.
don't have time to breathe. They need me right there,
Yeah.
right? So I'm in this very important job of getting everything in, and then they're calling my name to get checkout. So um, having the tools be so easy. It's a drop down. I pick what I want. I type in the paddle number, and I can hit enter and type a
Yeah.
new paddle number and a new one and a new one. Oh, are we switching levels? Drop down, next level, type in a new. Everything allows me to be able to have everything in real time. So as I'm hearing it, as quick as I can type 105 enter, it's in the system. So now
Yeah.
moving on to the next one. And that these auctioneers, they talk fast for a
Oh my
reason,
gosh, they go so fast sometimes. I don't
and
even know how they do it.
last year, okay, so I've gotten to be like a little, I gotta pat my own shoulder here,
Kudos.
but your tool has allowed me to master Last Hero Standing. I don't know if anyone has ever seen the Last Hero Standing and how it works, but they throw a paddle up. The auctioneer has to say as many numbers in the air as he can see before they immediately take them down. The reason, because they take them down, if they don't see it, they can't call it. And that person did raise, but if the auctioneer didn't catch it, then it's not a donation. So he calls them all, and the last person to have it up wins this prize. So when he's seeing them all pop up, he or she has to get as many as they can as quick as they can. So it's 105, 207, 302, like
Yeah.
that. And I have to be able to type that in. And I can with your tools. If there's anything other than the enter bar, if I have to click on a mouse or do any, then I'm
Yeah.
not going to make it.
It doesn't
But
work.
yeah, it doesn't work. So making sure you shave off seconds, for me is a big one. And then just ease, like it has your software has every technical capability I need it to, you can ask me specifics because you probably have it, but that's what I love about it.
Well, and let me also pass some praise back to you, which is that you have absolutely impacted the software. For those of you that maybe don't know, BetterUnite has a very robust event tool that Kandice uses quite often. And we love to learn from our actual users. There's only so much, that we can know without actually being on site, which, we come to as many things as we can, but Kandice has given us incredible feedback, and also like hey, you know what I'd love to see? And that's like my favorite words.
I'm
I'd
so
love to
needy.
hear. It's the best. And our
I'm a
team
little
loves
needy.
it. I can tell you that our chief architect knows Candace on a first name basis because you guys have had a couple of conversations. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
you
honestly, a lot of that I can't take credit for. It's my clients. They'll be like, "Gosh, I wish it
yeah.
did this," and I'm like, I know somebody. Let me ask them."
I dial a friend.
Yeah.
Okay, so what features? Speaking of like not using something to its fullest extent, thank you so much for your wonderful praise of the quick add feature. But what other features can that are maybe more underutilized can make a big difference for a nonprofit?
I'm all about the data and just keeping things super organized and very clear.
Yeah,
So many every event is different. So
sure.
every time I go to the first event with a new client, I learn these different needs that they have versus other clients. And I love that because I can continue helping each organization grow in different ways. But you know, every organization has something very unique. And
Yeah.
sometimes utilizing tags can really help. So if it's like, I need to note that this person is a VIP, or I need to note that this person, needs this envelope when you get checked in, I want to be able to have that in easy visual. So you have the ability to add tags. I don't think anyone hardly ever uses tags. And I'm always, they're
I'm
like,
so glad you're mentioning this. It's
yeah,
such a key feature. It
it
really is.
is.
And
It
it
is.
can solve so many different problems. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, I know that's one of the things our account managers are constantly like telling whenever
Well,
somebody brings
shows
a
up
problem. They're like,
in bright orange above their
yeah,
name. So I pull them up and there it is. There's this tag that says, whatever. And you
gluten
can't
free,
help,
or yeah.
yeah, you can't help but see it. So, it's one of those things that I, I think one of my organizers used it. Truthfully, you probably have told me about tags a million times. But it wasn't until one of my organizers found it herself and used it. And I was like, huh, look at
There
that.
you go.
Would you look at that? That works so nice. So I've been using them a lot.
I love that. Wait, so you mentioned before that some data points. What data specifically should nonprofits be tracking? And can you kind of break that down into before the event, like maybe during, or like right before the event, something that
Sure.
they should pull, and then also after the event?
Okay. I'm going to start a little backwards. So, at
Go
the
for it.
end of every event, we provide a full debrief document that kind of walks you through every single thing of your event, and just, go through and analyze all the data. So, with the first year I get to work with them, it's kind of on somewhat of a basic level.
Sure.
This is our first year, so this is what we did at each level, and this is, what it looks like. And we really analyze it together because every organization is different. This organization would know their guests better than me, but we can talk out why this or that was better than that level, or
Right.
whatever, and you use data to kind of figure that out. And each kind of reporting it looks a little different, but when you go to start the next year and you're looking at starting to plan it again, the first thing that I do with my clients is say, okay, let's go back to that debrief Let's look at completely top to bottom. Let's talk out last year completely because guess what? That was 6 months ago. We don't
Mm,
fully remember everything that went down, so let's refresh our minds, and let's talk about that little note section at the bottom that says what we would like to see better. Let's
yeah,
think about how we can make that happen.
yeah.
Um, and there's a lot of reporting that can help you that's in Better Unite when it comes to like analyzing the different things, and you guys have a lot of that kind of already done for you and easy visuals.
Mhm.
One thing that I especially if you have a silent auction, well, inclusively if you have a silent auction, one thing that I really, really like to look at is the bidding reports,
Mm,
and seeing like, okay,
trends.
when you're looking at the carts and you're looking at the money spent, Jack Johnson spent, you know, 3,000 on silent auction, 7,000 on live auction, and he donated 5,000. He looks like an A plus guy, right? He's very easy to pick out as a really great donor. But who isn't easy to pick out is probably Sarah Johnson. When you look at her cart, she gave maybe $100 at silent auction, and then she gave, 200 during the powder race. It seems like she may not be your top priority, but you know what? If you were to look at a bidding report and you were to see Sarah Johnson bid on every single one of these items, she was bidding like crazy. And she was getting those items up. She helped
Yeah.
raise money even without spending money because she was the back
Yes.
bidder. But you're also looking at that bidder report and saying which items did really well, which ones should we focus on getting donated again,
Sure.
which ones didn't, which ones should we not wait, spend our time on. And you start tweaking your marketplace just like you would a store. And you're catering it to your donors and your guests and to the Sarah Johnson. How do we get her? She was willing to spend 250 on this, but she got outbid. She was willing to spend, XY, all this, but she got outbid. Clearly there was money there that she was willing to spend, but at the end she didn't. So how do we get her to spend that later? And that's just something you can really deep dive and talk about because you have a bidder report and you have records of all of those things. So that's one of my personal favorites because I just like to
Love
learn the
that.
psychology behind it.
Yeah, exactly. And it just gives you some marching orders, frankly, around
Right.
also your cultivation, what you're going to do, especially if Sarah comes to next year's
Yeah.
event.
Hmm.
How are we
And
going to talk to her?
every event's a little different, so people ask me all the time, "Well, what silent auction items should we do?" It depends. It depends
Yeah.
on your region, your people,
Who's in your
what they're
room?
liking, what they don't like. I've got one that's purely jewelry, and it does so well. And
Oh,
then
wow.
another event, they put jewelry in, not a single bid. But
Not
guess
bad.
what? The trips went crazy. So you just have to really kind of look at that data and think about it. So silent auction is a lot of work to get the donations, to put them together, so make it worth it. Get the items that are doing really well.
Oh, that is wonderful sage advice. And I like that last sentence particularly because there's so much work. And even though I think our technology has come a long way in making them less work, because I remember the days of clipboards and
Oh, yeah.
papers and pencils and everything down, and it's just this a logistical nightmare. And now we can like have people auto upload their items,
Mhm.
and we can
That's
really automate
amazing.
a
I
lot
have
of it.
not utilized that yet. I'm really excited
Oh
to have,
boy,
an organization use that
the
because
auction
that's
item
cool.
donation form, very popular.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so making all of that very fluid and but regardless, it is a lot of work, and
Yeah.
it's a taxing ask of the committee. So when you can explain the ROI of like, now I'm going to understand my donors a lot better, I just love that reframe. Okay, that was a great example of something that helps you before, during, and after your event, Candice. Way to go. All in one shot. So how then can tech improve our donor to guest experience?
Mm.
Oh, sorry. I guess I would say the donor or guest experience. So folks are showing up. I've heard this a lot, and I bet you have too. Where we've got people that are kind of, well, we think the folks that are coming to our event are really technology averse. They're not going to want to have that. Like, how can you overcome that? And why would you say that technology can really boost the donor or guest experience?
Absolutely. I would say, 5 years ago, I could see why there might be certain groups that still utilize the paper bidding. However, now it's such a time where everyone has their phone on
I
them.
think the
Everyone
expectation is just there. Yeah,
it's just
you're going
it's
to
all
use your
there,
phone.
and they depend on that for everything.
Mhm.
And so, I think with silent auction especially, if you're having me for sure, you're not gonna get me back to that paper. I'm not gonna think about it. I'm not gonna the rest of the evening, I got a little bit of ADHD, so if I wrote my name down, great, I was excited about it in the moment and I forgot about it. But you know what I won't forget is the outbid text that says, "Hey, you've been outbid.
Ooh,
Wanna replace your bid?" And here's a link, and it's so easy, and you just replace or you hit a max bid and say, "I'm willing to spend." You can't put max bid on paper. So
no,
if you can put max bid and
it's
say,
just
"I'm willing to spend $200 on this." The
yeah,
bid's currently at 75. It automatically will bid for you to your amount. And then, of course, if you're outbid past 200 and you change your mind, you wanna go up to 220, you can,
sure,
so, might as well. So that kinda helps just ease of use. One thing I just wanna note too that is just so important is I don't need a login or, like, to remember a password, you
yeah.
know? You've got these links, I call them magic links because they really are act like
I
magic.
borrowed that language from you,
You
Candice.
should,
I love
you
that.
should. Because it does act like magic. You click it, so I don't know what the magic happens in the back end, but it knows it's you and you're
Yep.
in. No one else can, come in as you. I don't know how you do it. You probably know the logistics, but it's great.
Yeah, and now we have. So I don't know if you know this, Candace, too. Have you had an organization use Donate Your Bid? Sorry, this is a little bit of
No.
BetterUnite. So what you can do now, and this was actually a suggestion by an organization. So if you've made your donation, you've gone through, but you got outbid, and you didn't end up winning the auction item. We now
Oh,
have it so that they can get sent a text saying, "Would you like to donate the amount of your bid?" And it has been so successful in the events that we've
oh
seen
my
that use. We
gosh.
just released it maybe at the end of November, I think.
I
So
remember you
this next
mentioning it,
yeah,
and I remember storing it away, and, I
it's
think
there.
has it been just I bet you could
It's
raise
outstanding.
so much
It has,
more.
yeah, we've had quite a few orgs opt into it, and it's really, really moved the needle.
Well,
We don't
that's
have a
that
case
Sarah
study just
Johnson,
yet, but we're
right?
about to. Sorry?
That's that Sarah Johnson, that I just mentioned where she bid a
Exactly.
lot,
That's
right,
right.
but then didn't win, and wow.
And all those bids just kind of evaporated as though they weren't there. But then we could maybe, I mean, she might not do all of them, but a couple she
Yeah,
might, the
yeah.
first one particularly. So anyway, I'm
Oh,
really excited
cool.
about that piece.
That is
Okay. So
exciting.
like we're here we are in the brass tacks of like, we got to raise money. These are not just parties. They are fundraisers. Candace Knockout Fundraising does. And I mean, for anybody that doesn't have the staff or the bandwidth to really do a blowout event, bringing in somebody like Candace, and frankly, I would say bring in Candace because she's like beginning to end. I'm just really impressed by the breadth and actually, I would say the depth of agency that you bring to
Thank you.
organizations when they're running these events. And I remember working with small, mid-sized nonprofits that, it's an all hands on deck, and then we still can't get to everything. And we certainly can't think of everything. So,
Right.
the goal is always raising money. So when that's the strategy, how can we like infuse fundraising opportunities throughout an event without just totally overwhelming the guests? How do you kind of weave those moments into the event flow natural so that they seem natural, I guess I should say?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I have what probably seems like the most clear answer, and know that when I say this, I know I'm probably a little biased, because these are my favorite people, but having a certified
Oh,
professional auctioneer. There's
100%.
nothing more important. As much as I can help fundraising with concepts and how things work and the logistics, and this is what I've seen, and this is, I could provide ideas all day. I'm not on the front, I'm on the back, which
Yeah.
that's where I want to be. I like to be in the back end of things, making sure everything kind of works well. But the person that you need to ensure that you maximize your fundraising is
Yep.
and I don't mean I mean a professional, licensed, they go through all the training, all this, the NAA, which is National
It's
Auctioneer Association.
intense, the
Yeah,
training. I've just become familiar with it as of this last year, and I was floored. I have to say, it's like a
yeah.
3-year process. I mean, it's not
Mhm,
small. Yeah.
mhm, and it's definitely it's just it's key. It's key to
Yeah.
your ability to fundraise
Totally agree.
because you can go for the free person all day, the person that offers to do free, but you're going to lose money by giving it to them for free, by, allowing someone to do it for free, because you want this person that is what they have invested their career in.
Yeah.
Because to make that smooth transition from one thing to another, they do this all the time. They're trained to understand people and understand the psychology behind why people give and how they give, and the best way to kind of, I don't want anyone to walk away feeling, like what just happened in there, that, but to do it with purpose and meaning and for the organization and on behalf of the organization. How many times, like if you were to tell me to list the 5 best things about myself, I would start sweating. I would hate it. But I could be like, Leah, can you go tell somebody the best 5 things about me? And I could even feed you what
Right.
those 5 things are. Okay. But that would be a much easier, someone would believe you.
Sure.
They're not gonna believe me. I just said it about myself. So hiring somebody to come on and
Oh,
advocate for
interesting.
you.
Candace, I've honestly never thought of it in those terms. That's
Yeah.
an incredible
Well,
analogy.
I'm not gonna ask for money for myself.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
right?
saying?
It's
You
super
just don't
weird
do
and
that.
awkward.
Yeah, yeah, so you gotta have someone come in and do that for you, and
Yeah.
have someone come in that's professional and can speak on your behalf and say, "This is what we're here for."
Hmm.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
That's what they're trained for. So, I've obviously, there's, other little, tools and things, but honestly, that just that's the key.
Yeah, having somebody on stage that knows what they're doing and knows and has done it before
Mhm.
is just, I mean, I don't know how many you've watched, but I've watched quite a few events that don't have it. And it's
Oh,
just,
yes.
it's just always, there's
It's
inevitably the awkward moment. There's
when you're like,
inevitably
you're sitting
some,
there and you've seen these a million times, and I'll be like, "Ooh, that was tough," or, "Oh, we just lost everybody." You can
yep,
feel
there
it,
they
and
go.
I feel this, like, just like, when you learn how to ride a bike, you know how to ride a bike. I've seen so many of these that it's like riding a bike. I can feel, and I'm also very empathic, so but I can feel the energy in the room
Yeah,
wane or go up, or I could just feel it doing this, and kind of know, like, that's where we lost him.
yeah,
And even, sometimes it's just like, okay, we need to tweak that run of show, right? And you couldn't have anticipated this, but now we know. But that just kind of full circles it back to the run of show, making sure there's not crazy pauses, or you've built up this momentum. Okay, put a speaker on. No, no, no. You
no,
built
no,
up
no.
this momentum, put your auctioneer on,
There
right?
you go.
So making sure
High
those things
energy,
flow.
let's get the money going. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
I also love about the auctioneers too is that they do such a good job of making the audience feel good about what they're doing because
Yeah.
I think you're right about that. It's awkward asking for money for yourself, maybe even for your own mission. And I don't know about you, but the times I see no auctioneer up there, I'll see a board president that'll kind of act as the MC, and they have that same awkwardness
Yeah.
about them in that regard. But when the auctioneer is up there, the energy just like continues to move up, and
Right.
they are truly cheerleading the audience and reminding them over and over again that
Yeah.
the audience, that they're the heroes in the room, and that they are doing the good work to support the mission, and the mission is their weapon. This is my favorite analogy: is that the donor is the guest, is the hero, and the
Mhm.
nonprofit is the hammer of Thor, is the hero's
Yep.
weapon. So the hero is the person in the audience trying to do good. And I just think the auctioneers really hammer that home.
They can really put that out there, and it's also having the right fit too, so,
Oh,
having, and
I was
that's
just talking about this earlier today.
like a whole other topic, but just like
Yeah,
the right fit, right? So if you're advocating for women, let's put a woman
right.
on the
Yeah,
stage, right? Or,
that's
whatever,
exactly
and just,
it.
it's kind of funny because, you've got auctioneers who are so eclectic, and they can really just, um,
Come in
do
all
it
shapes and
all, but
sizes.
yeah, yeah, it's really, you gotta find the right fit for you, and okay, maybe you don't need a ton of support on the front end, so this person's really great energy, or hey, you need so much support, you're gonna wanna go for somebody who's like really dives into the consulting before. So, just if I know auctioneers all over the country, so if anybody needs to know who to go to, or I can help you find that fit. What you're looking for, I can help you find that fit. But
That's incredible. That's really
shopping
nice.
around and finding the ones that are certified and
And then
qualified.
good for your particular organization. Like
Yeah.
you said, they're all special snowflakes. Every
Oh, yeah.
event is. Okay, so last question, one I always end with that I love. What is, well, so you can take either of these two questions. How about this? What is the one thing that you would love for everybody to take away from this webinar today? And or what's one small tweak that a nonprofit could make to increase giving at their next event?
Mm, that is a really
Final
hard
thoughts
question.
from Kandice Luisi.
Really, really, really put me on the spot here. Um,
Sorry, it's my
okay, you
specialty.
know what? This isn't anything that we've said actually, but
Okay.
so maybe the takeaway gets given now. I would say one thing that I think um, is underutilized is nonprofits really communicating with other nonprofits and
Oh,
saying, "Hey, I have this gala. We've done it the same way every year. I just want to see another one," right? So as someone in that with that same company and they've been working the same event, that might be all you know. That might be the only gal you've been to. That might be, so you see it this one way. I've seen a million. I've seen it work here and not work there or work there. I've
yeah.
seen these different things. And I feel like anytime I bring up, oh, I've seen this, anytime I say that to a client, they're like, whoa, we've never thought of that. So though I hadn't said it before, I think it's something that is very important is that you go into your community and you say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is our mission. We have a gala as well. Is there any way that I could I don't even have to have a plate or seat or anything, but could I just come and just see what you're doing? I've heard great things. Could I just come and see? And that knowledge share and joining a forum, whatever it takes, like community is everything. And I can't tell you how many organizations just haven't taken that opportunity to go talk to another organization, or I've been able to connect some and say, "Oh yeah, I have a client that, is doing something great. It's a little different, but it's in the same community as you. I'd love to connect you." And just finding those like-minded individuals that would be happy to share knowledge. I think for me, it comes down to knowledge share. I can't tell you how many auctioneers that have really just I mean, devoted their knowledge into me and made me really grow and love this industry. And I wouldn't have been able to do it if I didn't get to see all these different ways of doing things and learning from these different people. And I just think that that's crucial.
I'm so glad that you brought that up. I mean, we talk about that. I've really never thought about it either. Again, Candace, you're bringing a reframe to me, but how many times I've talked about the power of nonprofits kind of coming together or a merger and acquisition that's pretty rare among nonprofits, but I think unfortunately so. And then also, we are seeing this trend among foundations where they are looking to nonprofits to work together, to collaborate. Here in Austin, where I live, there's actually a conference summit that they have started called Austin Together, which is bringing
Oh,
the
yes.
nonprofits together so that they can collaborate and speak to each other. But I hadn't really thought about it in the context of events. And that is just, I think, brilliant advice. So thank you for that.
No
I'm going
problem.
to be sharing that one widely too.
Oh,
Okay, we
good.
do
Yeah.
have one question and I want
Yes.
to throw it out to you. And we're kind of moving past our allotted time, but we've got a few more minutes. So, how can an auctioneer successfully execute a last hero standing appeal without
Ooh.
making other guests feel sidelined or showing favoritism? While it's a
Oh, good.
powerful technique, I've often felt a well-run paddle drop achieves similar results in a way that feels more inclusive and energizing for the whole room. So what's your perspective on those two approaches? It's a
Okay.
big question.
So let's say we're at the $100 level with either one of those games, paddle last hero standing or the paddle drop. I can say with how many times I've seen last hero, that's some of the most 100s that you'll get. Like, so when I say that, so you're gonna get like 50, I've seen like 50 to 100 of people raise their paddles. That game can go on
Sure.
forever, and people are just going like crazy playing this game. It's a game that's competitive and fun, and it's for often an item that is well worth over $100. So they don't mind raising it a couple times, even if they still don't win. It's kind of similar to like a raffle in the sense that you can buy multiple, and kind of raise a bit more than if you had put it in the silent auction. But communication's huge. The auctioneer has to be so clear on the instructions because I can't tell you how many times I've had a guest be like, I thought it was just
What just happened?
100 once. And I'm like, no, every time you raise your paddle, you're donating
Oh, you
that.
mean at checkout there
Right.
they
Right.
dispute.
So
Oh
just
gosh.
communicating
Yeah.
is huge.
Mm.
But them being able to really feel the room, right? The favorites, I get what you're saying. They'll sometimes pick that person that just raised so many times. It is a delicate thing, right? You can't play favorites. They just call the numbers. So clear communication, making sure that they're explaining the game, and they say, when I say SOLD, sold, and like hit a hammer, or, you know, clap, or, you know, this is the last syllable that I'm going to say, that's when it's done. You know, just again, being really, really clear, because someone might have thought they won already. I get it. There's confusion, but as long as they're clear on the front end and organized during the calling of the numbers,
Yeah.
and just calling out numbers, and not always starting on one side of the room versus, you know, starting on the other. You have to call out as many numbers as you can. And again, the auctioneer can't, you're right, can't be biased. They can't just pick the number they want to win. Like, they have to be true to the game.
Resist the urge, auctioneers.
Yeah, and I think I've seen it done so many times so
Yeah.
well, no
Yeah.
complaints.
Yeah.
The $100 got raised, like, again, like 60 to 70 times. That's 6,000, 7,000. You know, it's crazy how much money you can raise on that. Paddle
Yeah.
drop only, you know, each guest has one chance to enter paddle. While if you are competitive and you're really into this game, you could raise 3, 4, 5, 10 times, to because you're so dedicated. You At this point, you don't even care about, you
Right.
just want to win. You
Yeah.
know, you're not even caring how much you're giving. You just want
I'm
to
in.
win. So that to me is a higher multiplication. So, you know, you can get a lot more. But if your worry is more of, okay, this game is confusing, go with the paddle drop. I like a paddle drop just as much. I mean,
Yeah.
really, people are just like, oh, what's giving my paddle? Like, I'm giving it $100, and then we're gonna throw it up in the air. We're gonna pick a winner. Both are really fun games. I would say one can be a little more complex, but potential to raise more.
More.
One's
Yeah.
very simple and easy, but you're kind of limited on how much you can raise. Sorry, that was a
I
lot
love that. That was
to
an
answer that.
incredible, great question, Patrick, and great answer, Candice. I love all of that. Well, thank you so much again, Candice, for joining me today on
Thank you for
our
having me.
Supercharging Your Events. Let me see, let me pull my presentation back up here so I can remember what I'm supposed to say next. Um, Next week. Okay, so Candice with Knockout Fundraising, please go to knockoutfundraising.com if you want to engage her and her superstar Tiger team of people that can come and actually just completely run your event.
Thank you,
I
Leah. It's
think I actually, there
kofundraising.com.
you go, KO Fundraising. Thank you. I skipped
No,
the
you're
slide and then
perfect.
I messed it up. Candice with a K at kofundraising.com. And also you are on Instagram, right? What's your Instagram handle?
KO fundraising probably.
Okay, well,
Now
you
you
can
put me on the spot.
there you go. Email Candice if you'd like to know her Instagram.
Pretty sure it's KO fundraising.
There you go. And if you've got questions about any of the stuff that Candice was talking about with BetterUnite, if you're unfamiliar with our event tool, please, you can email our support team, support@betterunite.com. And next week, sorry, here's my next slide, February 3rd, same time, 1:30 Central, I'm going to be joined by Stephanie Paz Townsend. She is an incredibly strategic leader, and she is speaking like basically where Candice's job ends, we're going to speak to what happens then. So the way that you can take your attendees at the event and turn them over time into major donors with some real strategy, some real intention, utilizing moves management, utilizing automations. This is not all landing on the head of the development director the next day. These are moves that you can plan before your event that are going to occur months after your event. So don't please join this call. This is
I'll have to
actually one of
join
my
that one.
favorite topics to talk about. I know it's really, I really believe this is kind of the future of events and moving the needle with within the nonprofit world. So scan there, register for next week's event. And again, if you've got questions about any of the wonderful things that Candice said or things that you'd like to talk to us about, support@betterunite.com. We will show you around. Candice, thank you again so much for joining me today. I love seeing your face and chatting with you about all these things. And yeah, have a good day.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us, and it was a pleasure.
All right,
So
everybody, let's go
take care.
do some good. See you next
Bye.
time.